Do you ever feel trapped in the density of life, wondering how to reconnect with your true self? Well, today I'm sharing my journey of rediscovering purpose and healing through light, love, and those higher vibrations.
Hey, this is Francisca, and this is my mid-crisis life. So, I had a bit of a realization today in terms of this whole thing. I was listening to a really interesting book called Spirit Hacking by Shaman Durek, I think it is. And I'm so grateful. My friend recommended me this book like 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. And I listened to it at the time, and it didn't really catch my attention. I think I felt like at the time a lot of it I already knew, I was already experiencing. I was kind of au fait with it because that was my life at the time. But listening to it back again today and yesterday, man, it really made me think long and hard and feel long and deep about what is it that I am doing here? What am I doing? Like, what, not just what the purpose of this whole exploit is, but like, what is my purpose? You know, I feel like the time that I spent in Costa Rica, I was so much more aligned. I was so much more spiritually connected. I was so much more in my authentic self than in my ego. That these concepts just seemed so obvious, and they seemed so streamlined, and they seemed so easily connectable, like just so easily, like almost tangible. And I feel like in some ways I've just completely forgotten that, like that my soul has got lost somewhere inside the matrix, and that has created again this kind of egoistical cognitive based, more masculine version of me. And it's funny because I always used to say, I used to come back to the UK when I lived in Costa Rica, and I'd come back and I would immediately feel the difference. I would immediately, in my body, viscerally, as soon as I stepped off the plane, I could feel the difference in energy in this place. This place, the Western world, so many places now, because the Western world is just infiltrating everything, right? It's all so fucking dense. Like, it's so dense. There's no ability to elevate yourself unless you want to do it through money, power, or status. These are the only ways that we elevate in these places. There is no place for humanity, empathy, compassion, heartfelt forgiveness, love, light. It's such a dark, dark place. And I don't think I know because I've had the difference, and I've been able to have that comparison between these two different places, these two different energetical fields. I've felt the difference of being somewhere that has a much higher energetical frequency. And it's like the longer and longer and longer that I've been here, the more quickly I've forgotten what it feels like to not be bogged down by the fucking matrix, to not be embroiled in the darkness and in the fear that is perpetuated in the Western world, like that constant non-stop background noise of things to be scared of, things to be worried about, feeling a lack of absolutely everything, that you need to have money, you need to have cars, you need to have the new trainers, you need to have this type of job, you need to live in this type of house, and this constant feeling of fear that everything that they say on the news is going to come true, and everything that they sell to you about who you should be and what success looks like is never going to happen for you. And it's like I've just forgotten completely what it feels like to be elevated outside of that. And it's like the more and more that I've been here, the more and more that I have seeped into that density, or the density is seeped into me, to the point now I'm back again where I don't even notice it. I don't even realize how far deep into the matrix I am, how far deep into the darkness I am. And this mouse app may sound like crazy talk, and that's fine, but people who know, they know. People who get it, they get it, right? There is a pervasive and strategic game plan from whoever, right? I'm not going to get into that, that is perpetuated in countries where we are more technologically, intellectually advanced, that causes for us to completely disconnect from ourselves, from our soul, from our spirit, and therefore from the soul and spirit of absolutely everything else that's in the realm, that's in the universe, that's in the multiverse, and particularly from each other, that creates this individualized lack mentality, this hoarding mentality, this survival mentality, and stops us from wanting to give and wanting to nurture one another, wanting to nurture the systems that we live under, the infrastructure, wanting to nurture the land, wanting to nurture the animals, wanting to nurture all of the things that sustain us on this planet. And the only thing that we want to nurture is ourselves. Why? Because we're too scared that we won't be able to pay our bills, that we'll be homeless next month, that someone else is going to take the job that we need, that there's not enough money to go around, that there's a finite amount of resources of absolutely everything, and that we need to hoard as much as we possibly can and hold it to ourselves and not share it with anybody else, because who knows when it might run out, and I don't want to be the person that's in lack. And as I say, that mindset, that way of thinking, that energy is so pervasive in this country, in all Western societies. And it's like the more I've been here, I've just forgotten actually what is my purpose. When I was in Costa Rica, all the time, all the time, I used to go into the darkness, whether that be through things that were actually happening in my life, relationships that there were around me, connection, or even in the spirit realm, being attacked constantly, feeling constantly like I was having to find the light to shine on the darkness, right? And for me, I feel like that whole journey was really important for me because it allowed me to realize, number one, that the darkness is not the enemy. It's just doing what it was sent here to do, right? Which is to kind of maintain the status quo, to get people to forget that they're connected to a higher power, that they're connected to one another, that they're connected to the earth, um, and to perpetuate that kind of individualistic mentality. And what I experienced while I was out there was that actually the only way that you can heal that sickness, that dis-ease, is through love and through light. But really, actually, it's necessary to go into that darkness sometimes, because in there is truth. So I think about, for example, people that are perennially optimistic, or not even perennially, like pathologically optimistic. People that are like, I'm a light worker, there is no darkness, it's all light, we're just all here, we're all like, no, bollocks, like it's absolute bollocks. You cannot have light without dark. You cannot have good without evil. You cannot have beauty without ugly. I think I've said it before, right? These things work on a continuum, and darkness actually is just a different shade of light. It's not the absence of light. it's still light. It's just showing up in a different way. And oftentimes it shows up to bring out of us things that we need to heal, things that we need to look at, things that maybe we are ignoring, things that we are avoiding, things that we're distorting, things that we're denying because we don't want to look at it. But actually, it's really important to go there and to face those things. So even if you think about it in a logical way, if I stop talking about darkness and light and love and whatever else, yeah, if you have a certain behavior, for example, that is unhealthy, maybe every time someone cuts you off in traffic, you fly into the most aggressive rage possible. You're screaming, you're shouting, you're driving the car like a little bit of a maniac. Everybody in the car can feel that anger pulsating off of you. Now the whole car is nervous, or other people are angry. Now, because you're angry, all you see is stuff that's going to make you angry. So there's more people that cut you off, and your children are now being annoying, and the whole car is just infused with this feeling of anger. Now, if you want to avoid that, you can do. If you want to distort it, you can do. You can say, well, actually, I'm not an angry person. It was that person, it was that moment, it was that driver, it was that time, it was just that situation, those circumstances that pulled it out of me. But actually, everything's really actually all good. Actually, everything's all goodness and light. I'm all goodness and light. That is who I am. And I'm just going to distort everything that's happening over here and say that it's because of all the environmental factors. If you don't go into that maladaptive behavior and you don't face it, you don't face that darkness, you will never learn anything. Because within there is a nugget of truth. Yeah, there's something that you need to know. There's something that you need to learn, right? In order to heal, to evolve, to change, right? So in that way, it's like we need that yin and yang, right? We need that duality, even though it's not really duality, right? It's actually just a continuum of all the same thing. But if you want to look at it simply like that, we kind of need that duality in order to be able to face things that maybe we don't face, we don't want to face, and bring them out into the light. And I feel like in a lot of ways that's what's happening in the world. Everybody talks about the world going to shit. You know, it's just so dangerous and there's so many wars, etc., etc. But I really just think actually what's happening at the moment is that all of that darkness, all of that evil, all of those maladaptive, diseased behaviors that have been prevalent in the world for hundreds of years now, they are all being brought to the light, and they're being brought to the light in the most in a global scale, right? So it's not just this one pocket of society where we can say, well, it's just them because they're not what's the word? They're not civilized. Yeah. If they were more civilized like us, then that wouldn't be happening there. It's happening everywhere. And it looks like chaos and it looks really scary, but actually, it's the truth of human nature, or what human nature has become, because it's not even really actually organic human nature. It's just an augmentation of really poor decision making and that more kind of like masculine, strategic, individualized thinking that has been pervasive in the globe for a very, very long time. It's just coming to the surface, and that's what we're seeing, and it needs to happen because it shows us the truth of who we are. It's a mirror to us, and then we can begin to heal. Then we can begin to infuse it with love, with compassion, with humanity, which is what's happening, which is why there's a big revolution happening at the moment all over the planet. But thinking about things in terms of this and what I'm doing here, I think the revelation for me has been about what is the point of this? Yeah, it's interesting to talk about my life and to deconstruct things and to give people some analytical or logical or strategic ways of looking at life, some ways of gathering more self-awareness, garnering some more self-awareness. But really, actually, I think what I want to be a contributing factor to that change. I want to help people to stop avoiding, to stop living in that darkness, which is a really difficult thing to do when you are surrounded by it, when it is the very core and infrastructure of the civilization that you live in. And until you've got out of it, you don't actually know that that's how you're living. But I want to really help people to face that, to face those hard truths, to face those difficult truths, to be more transparent about where they're at and what they're doing and how they're behaving, why they're going on the way that they are, and to really take that awareness and bring it to the surface and begin to heal it. Because if we heal one person at a time, then that is going to infiltrate the whole of society, and it is going to raise the vibration of the whole of society through that kind of knock-on effect. If one person is able to be responsive rather than reactive, if one person is able to say, actually, I think what's going on is more about me than it is about you. It's more about me than the traffic. It's more about me than that guy that cut me off. It's more about me than my child's dysregulated behavior. It's more about me than the relationships that I have around me, or the fact that I don't have any money, or the fact that I'm scared that I'm going to lose my job, or the fact that I don't have the newest trainers or car or TV or whatever. It's just something within me that needs to be brought to the surface and needs to be healed. And that can only be done through love, only be done through infusing things with light, with that higher energetical frequency, that vibration that is a healing vibration. That's the only way that you can do it. But if one person does that and stops reacting to the outside world and stops blaming the person in front of them, stops displacing blame or distorting the truth or projecting it onto somebody else, if one person does that, then the person that they were blaming no longer has to hold accountability for something that they can't do anything about. Maybe now that person has more space to be able to say, oh, well, I'm not holding your shit anymore. You're dealing with it. Let me look at some of my own. Oh, you're actually taking responsibility and accountability for the way that you behave. Okay, maybe I need to do that as well. And the more that we do that, the more that we will begin to heal all the ills in this world, the more that we will begin to raise our vibration as a humanity, as a global consciousness, And that really is what I want to do. I want to be contributing to that transition through what I'm doing here. And I'm really, really grateful that the journey that I had yesterday, that was supposed to be an hour and 20 minutes, and 2 hours in, I was driving the wrong way down the motorway, having to turn around, drive back again, charge my car. I'm so glad that journey ended up the way that it did and forced me to think, you know what? Let me listen to something. And what happened, the algorithm on Audible was like, listen to this book. Why not? And put it on for me. And it's reopened my eyes in terms of like what this is and what my purpose is. So I'm just really, really, really grateful. Really grateful for that. Okay. I think that's it.
If this resonates with you, share your thoughts or experiences with finding light in the darkness. Let's create a space for collective healing. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me on this journey of transformation.